Sylvia Nalovega. I'm a director and a tutor at Sanyo Center for Arts and Rights, where we use activism, that is creative activism, to create positive social change among young people. We use arts and design, sustainable fashion, we do writing, we do music, dance, anything that is arts to engage young people to effect different changes in our community. And we address things like education, youth employment, we look at issues of sexual reproductive health rights, and also prevention of sexual and gender-based violence. So that is why we are here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sylvia. Irene.
Thank you. Good morning, listeners. My name is Irene Nakasoga, and I work with Interreligious Council of Uganda as the gender specialist. And I also work with Sanyo Arts and Rights as a consultant. Yes, so this morning we're here to discuss the teenage matters.
You talked about the Interreligious Council, and the first thing that I would like to impress
on
was our Archbishop coming out to
Yes.
say pregnant girls should not be allowed to go to school. I believe he had his strong reasons, because I'm someone who believes by the time someone as influential as he is comes out to say something, it's premeditated, and it wasn't well received in the eyes of the public. I don't know what you say would be about it.
A bit of a correction. The Archbishop, who is the current chair for the Interreligious Council of Uganda, didn't come out to say they shouldn't. He came out to say, yes, we appreciate the government for putting out such guidelines that are helping, that are normalizing, that are helping the girls to have that equality in access to education, as well as the boys, But then, can we think in depth? Before we let them go back, can we think about the structures that can accommodate these kids, these teenage mothers, these pregnant mothers? You know how it is when you have a baby and you're in school and you need maybe to put them down and you need maybe to feed them. Yes, so there's a lot of amenities that are needed in schools before we bring them back. So that is where he was coming from.
Right.
Yes.
And he seems to be misquoted, and the problem is usually when something is communicated, people are so quick to pick the negative side of it and to cast stones at people. So before we even talk about the teenage girls, personally I have an issue that really haunts me and hurts me. The boys that are the perpetrators.
Are busy in school.
They are busy in school.
Yeah.
And we've had conversations where someone says, these boys should also be taken out of school for the time the girl is going to be out of school until the girl goes back. I don't know if you ladies agree with this kind of approach.
Well, I look at equality in all aspects. And when it comes to equal opportunities, a girl who is pregnant should be allowed to go back to school. Yes, we are talking about the COVID period, but these things were happening even before.
Yes.
And we were reluctant. The leaders were looking at these pregnant girls as those that are bad-mannered, as those that misbehave,
And just to cut you short, in 2019, up to 2018, we had 365,530 teenage pregnancies. That is in 2018, away from COVID-19.
Yeah.
Then 2019, we had 358. And then 2020, we had 354.
These things have been
Thousand.
happening.
Thousand, yes.
Thousands. But initially what would happen is that when you conceive, you're cast out of school. You're like, go home. They would only allow them to go back and do exams, which wasn't fair. Because the boyfriend was still in school, So maybe COVID a little bit helped us to bring it out, to show that there's an escalation and to show that we need to action as leaders. So we got these guidelines that are really helping us to bring back, but there's more to think about on top of the guidelines from the government.
What about the boy? That boy. Shouldn't he also
That-
suffer consequences? Because I'm looking at my baby, who is probably 15, 16, and I'm imagining the pain of childbirth, and I'm imagining my little girl going through such pain, and the boy could even go and impregnate another girl. I'm like, no, it is the pain, it is to feel the pain.
I know, but maybe just thinking about it, with a girl is that evidence. It's really evident,
you can't
physically.
hide it. Yes.
But then for the boy, they walk away without any guilt. They can't be pointed at as if they didn't really
You
do
can even
it.
choose to deny until probably you do DNA.
Exactly. So for them, they are more privileged, but we have to focus on this vulnerable girl.
The vulnerable girl. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm still not getting a solution to
I
my problem,
know.
but
It's
yes,
a
you said
I
something.
think that's why part of the measures that also the government is looking into is strengthening the child protection committees at community levels. That's really our grassroots structure.
Right.
So these child protection committees are able to address issues of like sexual and gender-based violence, which have been one of the causes for the teenage mothers' pregnancies and all that. So through the child protection committees, we're able to address issues of sexual and gender-based violence, bring perpetrators to account for their actions. So that is a little bit of something that we could also.
You've thought about bringing perpetrators, to take responsible for their actions. And the problem is when you interact with these girls that have had it rough, some were defiled, some of course were lured, some were manipulated, and some actually went there knowing what they were going to get, but of course they didn't understand the impact of the decision they were making on their lives. Now the question here is, actually the point is, we've not seen government and security bodies like police helping these teenage girls get justice.
Absolutely. Actually,
And this leaves us with the question of, aren't we going to see these girls first of all growing up with a lot of bitterness towards the other gender, and also you've heard of women who are very bitter with men, and all she does is, I want to hurt that gender, and some have even killed people, some have attempted to kill themselves or kill other people. So do you think government is really doing enough to help these teenage girls especially get justice?
Wow, the challenge is quite big. Let me answer that by a story. I was with a young mother yesterday actually, and she was giving me her story. It was really heartbreaking. She was lured. She was actually gang raped by the colleagues of her brother and her brother. And so
even the brother was inclusive.
Yes. And so when she came back home, she didn't know whether she was pregnant or not. She told her mother, but I think that they didn't do much. So after 5 months, she discovered that she was pregnant. And remember, there is so much that happens during that time. She has
the trauma.
Yes, she has started to, she knows that she's no longer going to school. And then she doesn't know whether the parents will help her. The future was.
She doesn't even know the father of the child.
She doesn't know the father of the child. But then she really, I think, somehow she got to know that, it's the brother that is responsible, because I happened to see the baby and probably they made a connection. But the thing is, this girl was so, she had this hopelessness about her, very vulnerable. She's like, I don't know how I'm going to take care of my child. I'm forced to leave home. My parents cannot take care of me. And then the person who made me responsible,
Who is responsible?
Yes. He did nothing actually, so I'm here all by myself. And she's like, for me, I really feel that if we could be given that first step of being counseled, of being helped, like someone talking to you, because we really need our story to get out. So that really came out, and also from interaction with different teenage mothers, they really said, we really wish we could get someone to listen to our story. Because some of them, yes, they hold us responsible for whatever happened to us. Some of them are like, why did you protect yourselves better? But I think the government and the different development partners who are concerned that this supporting the girls psychosocially is very, very important for their rehabilitation, because it's such a very, it's a scary ordeal to go through.
It must be. Before we reach the counseling bit and the psychosocial support, there is access to justice, but I don't know if you ladies will agree with me that there is need for sex education. I don't know if the church will be in agreement, because when you talk about sex education, probably people think you're going to teach them how to do certain things, yet probably you're going to have to equip this girl with skills of protecting herself, just in case you're gang raped. What do you do? Because some do not know. They are not aware of what they're supposed to be doing. They do not know what to do, or where to go, or who to talk to. And they also, there is facilities like PEP, but they do not know about them. Because aside from teenage pregnancies, there is sexually transmitted diseases that come along. There is the infections that come along, and these are things that are very embarrassing to talk about by them.
Mm.
You ladies will agree with me that at one point in your life, if you had an infection, you'd be like, Chimbin, I'm not saying anything, I'm not telling anyone.
Yeah.
So now imagine this girl who has no one to tell about your deal. So do you support sex education?
Yes, we do. Actually, at Interreligious Council of Uganda, we do have a project currently, sexual reproductive health rights.
Right.
Yes. So we are tackling that area. Reason being, we would want to avoid what happened. You know, what happened with the escalation of the numbers was attached to the non-parenting. You know, we were not doing enough as parents. And that really falls into our docket, you know. The parenting beat, you know, we were used to sending.
We don't have time.
We don't have time.
That's what we say anyway. That's what we say.